everyone, and welcome to Frontier Trivia with the Northeast Georgia History Center. We're just getting started here, folks. So if you would like to go ahead and log on to Kahoots, that is the game pin right there, 504806. That is the game pin that is going to take you to our Frontier Trivia game. Now, it is going to work out best for y'all if you log on to Kahoots on your phone and then watch the live stream on a computer if you have that capability. That is probably the most enjoyable and seamless way to interact and play with us today. Now, what are we playing for today? If you win our Frontier Trivia game, you will be winning a free digital membership. Yes. And if you are already one of our absolutely wonderful digital members who we love very much, then you get to gift that wonderful gift of a digital membership to someone that you know so that they can enjoy all of our digital programming as well. All right, so we have, we're already up to 8 players. We're just going to wait and hold a little bit longer as we have more people come to join us because we want to make sure everyone can play. We don't really want to start without everyone here. We want to make sure everyone has a good, fair chance to win that digital membership. All right, so what is the American frontier, or what was the American frontier? That is what we will be exploring a bit today as we ask questions about it. If you are going by the writings of someone famous that we're going to hear from today, America, he thought that, I don't want to give too much away here, but he thought that America was America because of the frontier, because America had this desire to continue to spread, that there were all of this conflict over land and who owned the land, who had lands, different cultures who were all in America. The Native Americans, the English, all of those different European nations had different ideas about land ownership and how can you own land. And that translated into a lot of conflict on the American frontier as you had these different ideas coming to a clash. All right. Oh, we're still having people join, so we're still going to be talking about frontier life. America started out as 13 original colonies along the Atlantic Ocean and then just continued to spread westward. One of the reasons that America declared its independence from Great Britain is because Great Britain would not let them expand past the Appalachian mountain range. They said that is the Native American land and you cannot go past that, American colonists. American colonists said, we don't like your taxes, or are you telling us what to do? And they wanted to expand westward into that mountain range because it is good land. And that is, it fueled. So you could say moving westward is one of the tenets of the American democracy, of the creation of America, was the desire to expand. Of course, you have all of the European colonists who came over who were already, they had this desire to move, to go, to expand their horizons. And that dream of wanting to own your own land, to have a homestead for your family, to live off of that land is, for a good long while, is considered to be part of the American dream. So that the frontier really, it embodies a lot of different emotions and ideas that we will be looking at and asking questions about and giving context to today. All right, it looks like our players are coming to almost a holding point where we don't seem to have many new people joining us. We're going to give you 1 more minute, and then we are going to begin. All right, so a little bit more about America expanding westward. Like I said, after the American Revolution, colonists were able to expand westward into the Appalachian mountain range. And then in I don't want to give away any answers to questions, so I'm trying to be very careful here. Early in the 1800s, Thomas, one of the presidents, I'm trying really hard not to give away answers to questions or things that I might be answers to questions. One of the presidents doubled the size of America in one purchase, in one act. And that doubled America literally overnight. And then there was all this new land that had originally belonged to a different European power, which was France. One of the really interesting things about Louisiana is that and also Pensacola and those areas along the Gulf of Mexico. I think Pensacola calls themselves the City of Five Flags because they have been under 5 different nations and governments in their history. And sometimes I think we, as Americans, forget about that of course, we have America, but America had also been colonized by not just the English, but the Dutch. New York had originally been called New Amsterdam, and then the name was changed to New York to reflect the more British sounding instead of the more Dutch sounding name. And then you also have was colonized by the Spanish. You have Spanish Florida. Mexico owned like half of the United States at one point. And then also you had France, who owned the entire area of the Louisiana Purchase. All right. I think we are ready to start. So I'm going to disappear at times so that you can see the whole question, but sometimes I will reappear. It'll be okay. I haven't actually gone anywhere. So let's go. Let's play. So, the westward expansion was also known as what name? You have triangle, territory annex, diamond, western imperialism, circle, manifest destiny, or square, colonial fate. And don't Google the answers. Play fair. It's no fun if you cheat. All right, it looks like everyone has their answers in. So we are going to show the answer. All right, most people got it right. It is circle, yellow, manifest destiny. So the manifest destiny is this idea that America had this fate, this innate thing that it was going to do, which was, well, go from sea to shining sea. And it was a term coined in 1845 by newspaper editor John O'Sullivan to describe the belief that westward expansion of white settlers was destined by God. And this was used to justify and to that there was no other alternative than for America to expand westward, that it was America's fate, that it was what they were going to have to do, and what God wanted them to do. So, next question. What is the Homestead Act of 1862? We have triangle, allowed tenants to buy land in the West. Diamond, gave land to a person who agreed to plant at least 40 acres of trees. Circle, gave 60 to 120 acres of land to anyone who improved the land within 7 years, or square, gave 640 acres of public land to ranchers. All right, we have all the answer. Oh, it looks like we have more people joining us. So we're going to give those people a little bit more time to answer. All right. It looks like everyone has their answers in. Let's, if not, just hit a button. All right, because we're going to show them now. All right, again, most people got it right. The Homestead Act of 1862 gave 60 to 120 acres of land to anyone who improved the land within 7 years. All right, Ranger Bill is in the lead, followed closely by Midnight. And here we have a little bit more about the Homestead Act of 1862. It provided that any adult citizen who had never borne arms against the U.S. government could claim 160 acres of surveyed government land. Claimants were required to improve the plot by building a dwelling and cultivating the land. Now, of course, they like to put in the caveat that you had not borne arms against the U.S. because 1862 is in the middle of the American Civil War. To improve the land, you had to build a dwelling that was at least 10 by 12 feet. It had to have a door and a glass window. But a lot of people did not build incredibly stable or large homes because they were afraid that it was called like proving time, or it was a time to prove that you had improved the land. About half of the homesteaders failed within the first 5 years. They were not able to improve the land. They were not able to farm it, and they ended up losing their land. They didn't want to lose a nice big house along with that. So a lot of homesteaders built houses out of, that were the bare minimum, which I just described, out of very temporary materials like wood. Some people made it out of sod. You had sod houses. It looks like the one in the picture there is actually made of grass bricks. And some mud with some grass on the roof as well. And then, of course, they do have that one glass window that you are required to have by law if you are a homesteader. Okay, what was the name of the wagon best known for traveling to the west? You have Triangle. Oh dear. Conestoga Wagon. We have Diamond, Chuck Wagon, Circle, Station Wagon, or Square, Vardo Wagon. All right, so the Conestoga Wagon is the correct answer. Ranger Bill still in the lead, followed closely still by Midnight. So the Conestoga Wagon is a horse-drawn freight wagon suited for hauling freight over bad roads, which the frontier was full of. And this wagon could hold up to 6 ton, and it was usually pulled by 4 to 6 horses. Also could be pulled by ox or mule. Those were also common. But this wagon is what you would end up loading all of your earthly possessions into to travel westward. So a lot of times people think about, oh, I wasn't sure if I would want to ride in one of those wagons over all those bumpy roads. And, well, you might end up riding in the wagon if you were sick or injured or, heavily pregnant. But most of the time, you were on the outside walking alongside your wagon, because that wagon, that's being used for goods. That's being hauled. That's where all your earthly possessions are, and you get to walk alongside the wagon. So can you imagine? You aren't just you aren't riding in the wagon for over half of the continent. You are walking alongside the wagon for half the continent. Of course, you also have to have a person who's riding up there driving the wagon. That person got to ride, I guess, outside the wagon, barely. And then sometimes you would have a person riding next to them with a shotgun to fend off any person or animal that is going to try to disturb you from going into the frontier and or try to steal your possessions. And that is why we call the person riding in the front seat next to the driver the shotgun seat. So where was the first gold rush located in the United States? We have Triangle, Georgia. We have Diamond, California. Circle, Tennessee, and Square, North Carolina. Oh, so yes, this was a tricky one. The answer is actually North Carolina. All right. Ranger Bill still in the lead, and Louisa and Kay have just moved up into second. So while the California gold rush might be more famous, and the Georgia gold rush is definitely something we talk about here in Georgia that no one else does, Carolina was actually the first. North Carolina to be specific, following the discovery of a large gold nugget in North Carolina in 1799 by a 12-year-old boy named Conrad Reed, who spotted a 17-pound nugget while playing in Meadow Creek. And then the family used it as a doorstop because they didn't realize how valuable gold was. They thought it was a pretty rock. So the Frontiersmen, known as the Blank, were formed in 1835 as protectors of the Texas frontier. You have Triangle, Texas Hunters. Diamond, Texas Rangers. Circle, Texas Cavalry. Square, Texas Homesteaders. All right, it seems like most people got that one right. It is Texas Ranger. Ranger Bill still in the lead, still followed by Louisa and Kay. So here's a little bit more about the Texas Rangers. They were created unofficially by Stephen F. Austin in 1823 and were first headed by Captain Morris. On August 10, 1835, the Texas Rangers became an official body of rangers to protect the Mexican border. They are also sometimes called the Texas Devils, and if you'll note the time period here, 1835 is Texas has not actually joined the United States yet. Texas is still its own country and will be for about 10 more years. The Texas Rangers are also been made famous by the TV show Walker, Texas Ranger. which is a direct offshoot of this formation here. Of course, they have changed a little bit. They no longer, Texas is no longer its own country, and therefore they have to answer to more American bureaucracy of the federal government. But they still exist to this day. So the Lewis and Clark expedition was commissioned by which U.S. president? You have triangle, James Madison; diamond, Thomas Jefferson; circle, James Monroe; and square, Andrew Jackson. All right. It is Thomas Jefferson. Ranger Bill is still in the lead, still followed by Louisa and Kay. So here's a little bit more about Thomas Jefferson. He commissioned the Corps of Discovery in 1803 to study the area of the Louisiana Purchase and develop peaceful relationships with native tribes. So, of course, there you have Lewis and Clark with their interpreter and guide, who they would be sorely lost without, Sacagawea. And then you also have behind them their enslaved servant York, and then another member of their expedition. I'm not sure if that's Sacagawea's husband, who they originally hired to be the interpreter for the Corps of Discovery, but then they figured out that Sacagawea was much better and more skilled, and therefore we put her face on a coin. Who is known as the King of the Wild Frontier? You have triangle, Daniel Boone; diamond, David Crockett; circle, James Bowie; and square, John Wayne. It looks like almost everyone has their answers in. So we're going to give a few more seconds because we don't want to keep all these people waiting. So go ahead and click something. All right. It is David Crockett, who does not like to be called Davy Crockett, and therefore we wrote David. Ooh, Ranger Bill now has a fire emoticon next to his name, and he is still in the lead, followed by Louisa and Kay. So here's a little bit more about David, or Davy, Crockett. Frontiersman, soldier, politician, congressman, and prolific storyteller, he represented Tennessee in the U.S. House of Representatives and served in the Texas Revolution. He vehemently opposed the Indian Removal Act, and that actually cost him his seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. He was not reelected because he so vehemently opposed the Indian Removal Act, and then so he was elected to Congress vehemently opposed it, lost his seat, narrowly won again, and then lost it again. And that is when he went out to Texas. That was not a state yet. And then he ended up joining the revolution in Texas. In 1870, Louise and Swain became the first woman to vote in a general election. And what territory was she from? We have Triangle, Texas, Diamond, Missouri, Circle, Montana, and Square, Wyoming. All right, be deciding on your final answer. We're going to give a few more seconds. All right, click something really quick if you haven't answered already. So the correct answer is Wyoming. Ranger Bill is still in the lead. Now a little bit more about Wyoming and women voting there. In 1869, Wyoming became the first state or territory in the nation to grant suffrage to white women on equal footing with white men, as well as the rights to hold public office, own and inherit property. This is almost half a decade before the United States as a whole ratified its constitution to give women the right to vote. So Wyoming, pardon? Oh, sorry, half a century. Yes. Sorry, half a century before the United States put into act the amendment that gave women the right to vote. My apologies. So what were buffalo chips and what did the pioneers use them for? So, triangle, baked potatoes for food, diamonds, hides for warmth, circle, manure for fuel, or square, fat for soap. All right, looks like everyone has their answers in. If not, click something fast. And it is circle, manure for fuel. So buffalo chips are dried buffalo poop. And they would be used for, well, mostly cooking. And could be used in different types of fire things as well. So here is a woman with a whole wheelbarrow full of buffalo chips. Cow and buffalo chips offered the advantage of not throwing sparks into bedding or clothing, which was especially important in military tents and teepees. Also, if you look at that wide open prairie, you don't really see any trees, which means zero wood for burning in fires. So you are having to use the resources which are provided to you, which means buffalo chips. So, what is the name of the route that went from Virginia to Tennessee and north to Kentucky? We have Triangle Wilderness Road, Diamond Great Wagon Road, Circle Dixie Overland Highway, and Square Avery's Trace. All right, be deciding on your final answer and click it quick because we're about to go and reveal the final answer, which is Triangle Wilderness Road. Ranger Bill is still in the lead. So here's a little bit more about the Wilderness Road and a map of it. In 1775, Daniel Boone blazed a trail through the Cumberland Gap through the interior of Kentucky and to the Ohio River, creating a pathway for settlers. What was the name of the mail service that delivered communications between Missouri and California? We have Triangle Post Office Road. We have Diamond, which is Buffalo Route, Circle Pony Express, and Square Mail Trail. All right, it looks like everyone has their answers in. If not, decide on something fast and click it because we are about to go and reveal the answer. All right, Pony Express. Almost everyone got that one. Oh, Louisa and Kay have moved up into the first. You're in the lead. Wow, congratulations. Followed closely by CMH. So here's a little bit more about the Pony Express. The Pony Express was a mail service delivering messages, newspapers, and mail using relays of horses. Horse-mounted riders that operated from April 3rd, 1860 to October 24th, 1861, and this was between Missouri and California in the United States of America. Now, the Pony Express is super famous. As you can see, it was a very popular question that most people knew the answer to, but it only lasted for about a year and a half or so. It really didn't last that long, but it's become such a staple of American Western culture and ideology and folk tales that it has lived on far past and far exceeded its popularity today than it did back in the mid-1800s. So, the blank were one of 6 Cheyenne military societies that played a role in attempting to halt westward expansion. Triangle, brave bulls. Diamond, dog soldiers. Circle, eagle fighters. Square, buffalo warriors. All right, so the answer to that was dog soldiers. Let's see. CMH has moved into the lead. Congratulations. Followed by Wanda. So here's a little bit more about dog soldiers. They played a dominant role in Cheyenne resistance to the westward expansion of the United States in Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, and Wyoming, where the Cheyenne had settled in the early 19th century. So this act, signed by Abraham Lincoln, helped construct the first transcontinental railroad. So we have Triangle, the Hepburn Act. Diamond, Interstate Commerce Act. Circle, Elkins Act. And Square, Pacific Railroad Act. All right, so we have the Pacific Railroad Act. All right, CMH is in the lead and now followed by Louisa and Kay with a very narrow gap between the two. Could be anyone's game. So the Pacific Railroad Act provided federal subsidies in land and loans for the construction of a transcontinental railroad across the United States. The legalization authorized two railroad companies, the Union Pacific and the Central Pacific, to construct the lines. This famous author wrote, "A mine is a hole in the ground with a liar standing next to it. Who is this man who wrote it?" We have F. Scott Fitzgerald. We have Diamond, Charles Dickens. Circle, Edgar Allan Poe. Or we have Square, Mark Twain. Mark Twain is spelled incorrectly, but it is indeed Mark Twain. We are not trying to trick you, in case anyone was concerned about that. All right, we're going to give it a few more seconds, folks, because it looks like almost everyone has their answer in. Go ahead and be thinking about which one of these. And if you aren't sure, you have a 25% chance of getting it right if you just click one. So it is indeed Mark Twain. Ooh. Bavara has moved into the lead, now followed by CMH. So here's a little bit about Mark Twain. Mark Twain tried his luck at gold mining in California and Nevada when he was in his 20s. He did not find much fortune then, but he went on to become one of the most famous American authors. And a lot of his works we think of when we think of the American frontier, when we think of Huckleberry Finn and the Adventures of Tom Sawyer, these young boys who have set out into the American wilderness to seek fortune and adventure. So he, as well as being one of those young men himself, he also has written about them and has become almost folkloric in our ideas of in presenting our ideas of the American frontier. So the Indian Removal Act was put into motion by this U.S. president. Triangle, Andrew Jackson. Diamond, Abraham Lincoln. Circle, James Madison, and square, John Adams. All right, it looks like everyone has their answers in. Click something if you haven't, and we're going to go to the answers. It is President Andrew Jackson. Oh, Vivara is still in the lead now, followed by Louisa and Kay. So a little bit about President Andrew Jackson. The Indian Removal Act was signed into law by President Andrew Jackson on May 28, 1830, authorizing the president to negotiate with Southern Native American tribes for their removal to federal territory west of the Mississippi River. Here in Georgia, this very much affected the Cherokee Nation that lived in northeast Georgia. Here, where our History Center is, and they were removed on what it is called the Trail of Tears or the Trail of Sorrow to Oklahoma, a reservation in Oklahoma, where a good many still live to this day. So this term originated with the Native Americans for the African Americans who fought in the Indian Wars. We have triangle, buffalo soldiers. Diamond, bison fighters. Circle, buffalo warriors. Or square, snake songs. Looks like everyone almost has their answer in. Go ahead and start thinking about which one you're going to click. Go ahead and click it. Like I said before, you have a 25% chance of being right if you just click something. The answer is Buffalo Soldiers. Ooh, we still have Vivara in the lead. And Vivara has a streak of 12 correct answers in a row. Way to go, Vivara. She is followed by Louisa and Kay. So here's a little bit more about the Buffalo Soldiers. It was a nickname of African American U.S. cavalry regiments from 1867 to 1896, mainly fighting Native Americans on the frontier. The nickname was given by the Native Americans, but its significance is uncertain. This outlaw did not make a living as a bandit, but as a gunfighter and a cattle thief. So we have Triangle, Jesse James; Diamond, Butch Cassidy; Circle, Billy the Kid; and Square, the Sundance Kid. So we have a question about the Native American reservations in Oklahoma. The reservations were specific parts and specific types pieces of land within the Oklahoma Territory. Was not the entire state of Oklahoma. Because later, right after removal, there was the Oklahoma Land Rush, where white settlers were all lined up in their wagon trains. My great grandmother was actually in the back of one of those. They shot off a pistol, and those wagons could then run and go and try to claim land in the Oklahoma Territory. So no, there were also white settlers in Oklahoma as well. Okay, it looks like almost everyone has their answer in for this one. So the answer is Billy the Kid. This one was a little tricky. But Vivara is still in the lead, followed by Louisa and Kay. So here's a little bit more about Billy the Kid. Reputed to have killed at least 27 men before being gunned down at about the age of 21. Captured in 1880 by Sheriff Patrick Garrett, but escaped prison until being shot by Garrett in 1881. That is a photo of Billy the Kid. Tombstone, Arizona was home to what infamous gunfight? So you have Triangle, the Northfield Bank Raid; Diamond, gunfight at the OK Corral; Circle, Newton General Massacre; or Square, Vaudeville Theater Ambush. All right, it looks like almost everyone has their answer in. Be thinking about which one you're going to click, and click it. So the answer is gunfight at the OK Corral. Vivara is still in the lead, followed by Louisa and Kay. So here's a little bit about the gunfight at the OK Corral. It was a 30-second shootout between lawmen and members of outlaws called the Cowboys that took place at about 3 p.m. on Wednesday, October 26, 1881, in Tombstone, Arizona Territory, United States. Other famous members of this gunfight that you might have heard the names of are Wyatt Earp and then his two brothers, who were all acting as lawmen, or some of them were, and some of them just kind of decided to show up too. But Wyatt Earp is incredibly famous, and it was made famous by this gunfight, and my father was almost named after him. So historian Frederick Jackson Turner claimed the American frontier period passed in 1890 because blank. Triangle. There was nowhere else to create new settlement. Diamond. All land had been claimed by the United States. Circle. The railroad was completed. Or square. There were no more wars to fight. All right. So the answer is there was nowhere else to create new settlement. All right. It looks like we still have Vivara in the lead, followed by Louisa and Kay. So a little bit about that one. So his thesis, The Significance of the American Frontier History, mournfully proclaimed that once the once vast American western frontier was closed, and American energy, Turner maintained, will constantly demand a wider field for its existence. Some people thought that, what is America without frontier? Because for the entirety of America's history, it had been working to expand itself from sea to shining sea. So now what was it supposed to do? It didn't have anywhere else to go, really. It had reached the other side of the continent. And what did that mean for the American identity is one of the things that Turner was looking into in his thesis. Of course, you also have space, which America went to go explore, and that is sometimes called the final frontier because Americans just like to explore things, it seems like, whether that be on this earth or in ones we will find out in the universe.
All right, last question,
or next to last question. Oh, it's the last question. So the Battle of Little Bighorn is also commonly referred to as blank. The cavalry defeat, the diamond, Battle of Smallhorn, the circle, which is General Custer's last stand, or square, Battle of the 12th Infantry. All right, make sure you get your answers in for this last question, folks. And then we will reveal our winner after we reveal this answer. So it is General Custer's last stand. And the winner is, drumroll please, Vivara! Congratulations! And thank you all so much for playing. We have enjoyed this. We enjoy our trivia games with y'all. So We're now going to learn a little bit more about General Custer's last stand, which was an armed engagement between combined forces of the Lakota, Northern Cheyenne, and Arfaro tribes, and the 7th Cavalry Regiment of the United States Army, which resulted in the defeat of U.S. forces. So here we are. Congratulations to our 3rd place winner, CMH, our 2nd place winner, Louisa and Kay, and our 1st place winner, Bavara. So, Bavara, if you would please message the Northeast Georgia History Center on Facebook, then we can get you set up with your digital membership that you have won in today's prize. So thank you so much for playing with us. We really enjoy these games. I had a lot of fun and learned a good bit. I hope you did too. So be sure to check out the Northeast Georgia History Facebook page because we will be doing more of these. Be sure to check out our digital memberships like the one Bavara just won, as we do a lot of really interesting things that you can only see if you are a digital member. So this Friday, I am actually doing an open fire cooking demonstration where we are going to learn how to make a old-timey hearty potato soup. So you can only see that if you're a digital member. It's a very reasonable price. I do believe it is only $3 a month or $35 for a whole year. So incredibly reasonable. And I highly suggest you go check it out. So we hope you see us virtually on more of our live streams. We do have free live streams to the general public on Wednesdays like this one. And you will be seeing me next Wednesday for that as well, as I'm going to do one about sewing and historical sewing. So I hope to see you for that. I hope to see you as digital members. Thank you so much for playing. And until next time, take care.